Today I'll be talking to you about a subject that you might not have expected, the not so obvious barrier to innovation. Can I just see who are all the people here who want to be more successful? If I can just see your hands. Who here wants to experience a whole lot more pain? Well, this is better than I thought. Fantastic. As human beings, we all want to do more, we all want to have more, we all want to do more. We want to become better human beings. It sounds so attractive, right? But as a young boy, growing up with my grandparents, and this young boy, back in the here days as we refer to them, I grew up with my grandparents, and I noticed that they had accomplished quite a lot. Their own home, their own vehicles, they were able to go on holidays. They had a really relaxed life. And being a very inquisitive kid, I always had like 1,000 questions and 1,000,000 goals. And the guidance I always got from my paternal grandparents and my maternal grandmom was that I will achieve every single goal that I set my mind to. I would grow up to be a very respectable person in society. And grandparents, they always throw in that if you do the needed work. Now, they were extremely successful, so who was I to question their advice? We already heard that time is our most valuable asset. That clock is the only thing that does exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It is us who usually make all the excuses about what we can't get done. Now, if we take a look at a day, one of our days, we can see that 1/3 of our time actually goes into rest. We don't have a choice with that. If we choose not to rest, our body will actually take over and ensure that we get the rest we need. Another third, about 8 hours, is what we're supposed to be working, hypothetically. That's what we tell everyone, by the way. And the other third is where we use our discretionary time. When I think about myself, I started off in my uncle's company as a young mechanical engineering technician back in 1998. My uncle was a lifelong innovative entrepreneur, and you could see his innovative signature all over the company. But as he got older, as he got a company that continued to grow massively, you could actually see how that reached and that innovative signature started to wane because the energy level to really drive everything the way you want it to continues to drop. Being an innovative youngster myself, I very quickly learned how restrictive the systems could be. The same systems that were put in place to keep things in order were actually the systems that chew me up and spit me out. And very quickly, I realized that this is not as easy as I thought. I went on to work for 2 other companies, and I found very much the same circumstance, that there was so much room for improvement, but not much room for someone who was innovative, someone who wanted to test the new, to really make their mark. Within a year, on February 14, 2000, the Day of Love, I actually started my own company. And it has been 20 years. Now, did I make mistakes? Once a day and twice on weekends. But I got better daily. I felt like Harry Potter would feel without hair. And I learned what I needed to learn. I learned from my mistakes. I learned from my teachers. I learned from my mentors. And I was able to overcome all the hurdles or all the obstacles that were placed in my way. It then really made me think, what else is out there? What else could I do? And you heard a little bit of my bio. Every goal that I thought would have been reasonable, that would have made an impact on society, I pursued. In 2018, when I was about halfway through my Ph.D. work, and I finally got to the project stage, I decided to investigate entrepreneurship in Guyana. You have the title up there, and my focus was Guyana. In Guyana, we have so many resources, all the natural resources you can possibly think about. We actually have gold, We had green gold in agriculture and logging. And just a few days ago, we exported our first set of black gold. But that is very ironic that a country with so many resources, such an abundance of resources, and such a small population, just 750,000 people, only earns about half the GDP per capita of the average that is being earned in the world. Where we are at about 5,000, and the average in the world is 10,000. And the average is dragged down by some regions in the world where it is extremely low. In our own Caribbean region, the average is more around the 11 to 12,000 mark. So how could this be? This really made me consider, as a curious onlooker, where are we getting stuck? And as I thought about entrepreneurship, as I got deeper into it, this concept is about 30 years old, I recognized that in the companies that I worked in before, I was an innovative employee operating in someone else's company, which is the definition of entrepreneurship. And of course, if you want a company to continue growing, if you want an organization to continue growing, you must be able to harness those entrepreneurial abilities within companies. Certain traits that you would see in this definition are exactly the reasons why I got fired, why many of us are either forced to quit or forced to retreat. But the insight that I got out of these 83 companies and nearly 1,000 employees really allowed me to understand that many of us in our organizations are barely doing the minimum. And why do we do the minimum? If I had done the minimum, I can guarantee you I would not be standing here today. I noticed that with the employees and management, the median score of entrepreneurship present in the organizations was about 5.5 out of 10. So there was so much room for growth. By doing so as well, I noticed that the profitability in the companies as well was fairly low growth, fairly low margin. The companies were not able to benefit from the innovative behavior of the people in their organization. And when a company doesn't generate significant profits, it also can't pay significant taxes because taxes are only paid on profits. This knock-on effect, combined with living in the land of abundant resources, is really tough. Innovation starts with the question, what if? What if you, every single one of you in here as individuals, could actually unlock all that creativity that is within you? What if you were in an environment that allowed you to manifest your ideas? What if your organization could actually benefit from all this value that you could add? Think about the innovative products and services that your organization could deliver to the market. We hear every single day the number of complaints, both from the public and the private sector, about how tough it is in organizations. And what if those organizations actually generated massive profits that would allow them to actually pay a significant amount of taxes to the government, because we understand that for public services, a big portion of that comes from taxes. And if we want better lives, where is the money going to come from? So on an individual level, something has to be missing. And you have to think for yourself, in the three areas that we saw up here, who moves fastest? Does the government move fast? Does our government move fast? Does an organization move fast? No. The key that can move the fastest here is you. If you want it from this evening, you don't need to wait till Tuesday, but this evening you could actually make a difference if you wanted to. And I'm in education. I consider myself a teacher, and I went back to Martin Broadwell's model that he developed in 1969, which describes the 4 levels of learning. And I'm going to build a little bit on his model today. And we all start off at unconscious incompetence, where we do not know that we do not know. And the question that is on your mind when this happens is, is where every time you ask yourself, I'm not sure, I don't know, what did you say? That is basically living in a state of ignorance. Think about it. It's a lack of knowledge, or else you did not have to say, and I don't know and I'm not sure. People then move up to a stage of conscious incompetence, which is where you now know why this knowledge is so important, exactly where it could take you. The question why leads you to actually discover what you have not known before. You move up to conscious competence, which is when you start asking, now that I know why, I need to learn how. And how is where you actually start building your skills. Once you've built that skill, you're actually at the state now of unconscious competence, which is the what. Now you know exactly what you can deliver at a moment's notice. This is what we call the ability level. This is what you actually get paid for if you think about it. Your abilities that you bring to the organization, the thing that you call success. When people are talking about your success, it's not generally what you're ignorant about, what you may know, what you have practiced, is what you have the ability to deliver. So you can notice as well that the first two steps are mindset. They can cause some turbulence up here. And unless you get past that turbulence from shifting from ignorance to knowledge, you're not even going to get started with building the skill set, which can cause physical pain. Now, if we take it a step further, and we think about the time frames of really developing these particular skills, we can see that ignorance, unless you're curious or interested, you can remain in ignorance forever. And blissful ignorance as well. I see many people in that state. Every single day when I look at Facebook, I look at the news, so blissful. Or you could snap out of it in an instant. In less than a second, you could snap out of ignorance. Knowledge, oh, knowledge is the fantastic one. Anything you want to learn, you can quickly get due to our friends at Google and YouTube and thankfully TEDx as well. That basically takes minutes, maybe hours. The problem becomes when you have now decided that you want to build a skill. At first, it will be slow and you'll make many mistakes. Think about it. When you were a child, you didn't know swimming didn't exist. You were ignorant about swimming. Every time you went near to a pool of water, your parents ran behind you trying to hold you back because ignorance of swimming. One day, when you dropped in, you finally got the knowledge, well, oh, wow, shucks, I can't swim. I now have knowledge. Right? I know why I need to learn to swim. Then you started with the skill. Slow, many mistakes. You needed a trainer near to you or else you wouldn't be sitting here today. After a little bit, you actually got to a stage where you were still slow, but then few mistakes. And with time, you actually become fast with no mistakes. We would hope, of course. That is why we have examinations when we're practicing to make sure that we have met that particular mark of competence. To get to a level to have an ability, you really must have that purpose and that drive that you really want to have an ability. An ability doesn't come overnight. I'm not standing in front of you because I woke up yesterday and decided to give a TED Talk. It took 39 years for me to get here. But people don't see the 39 years. They see from 4:30 when they showed up here. And they're paying attention to what I'm doing now. And you're seeing the ability, but every single step on that ladder took place in my life in order for me to be here. And every single step needs to happen in your life if you can only overcome the mistake trap. And the mistake trap is when you start doing something and you're slow and you make mistakes. You're slow and you make mistakes and you sometimes beat up on yourself. You retreat yourself, or if you have any fantastic bosses, they'll make you retreat as quickly as possible because there is no room for mistakes in many organizations. You know, it made me think when I just had my first job and I thought I was going to change the world and I started to change up stuff and I got chewed up and spit out. And when I got fired and I ended up back in my apartment, I cried for what felt like hours in the arms of my would-be wife back then. She actually did turn out to be my wife, but my would-be wife back 20 odd years ago. And it just hit me. as sharply as getting fired, that the reason we don't progress past this point is the pain. And you can see it's right on the border. It is when we are still struggling with the mental pain of should we, and starting to do it and feeling the physical pain of not just doing the work, but of the mistakes that the pain accompanies. You could really think about pain associated with mistakes and work as both the path and the process to success and pleasure. What if you could look forward to pain? What if you seek it out? What if you go to work tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and instead of doing the minimum, anything that starts feeling, thinking like pain, you head right straight into that direction. Because that is where the reward comes from. Instead of experiencing pain on this one side and pleasure on this one side, what if you can really enjoy both? What if you can really enjoy both? What if you can actually let that pain and that pleasure in your heart connect to your brain and instruct your brain what to do? Because many of us switch off when inside here starts feeling bad, when inside here starts feeling the pain. Now, can you actually keep calm and love pain? If pain is too tough a word, could you love the process? Because it is the process to get you to success. For my paternal grandparents, they passed on just after they finished educating and inspiring me. So they did not get to see what I became today. But I do believe that their words allowed me to not be afraid of the pain. If I wanted those goals, if I wanted that success, I needed to do the work. I needed to do the work. And it's very appropriate as well, which I didn't know, looking back in hindsight 20 years ago, that the business that I thought was going to liberate me was started on the day of love. So maybe it was a signal back then. But I'm very happy that my maternal grandmom is still with me, and I do my best to make sure that she can also enjoy the success that I have been able to generate through her inspiration to me. And those positive words and the way she sees pain as well is what I can see in my filters. And I'm asking you today that you have a large role in this. Because what if your success, each and every one of you sitting here, is actually what the world needs? What if your success can lift everyone in this country to a different level? What if your success can just lift your grandmother to a different level? Would it be worth it? I have just one question left for you to answer. And I need to hear from you if you agree or not. But the question simply is, can you learn to fall in love with your pain? Thank you very much.